it. So thank you all for being such good contributors to the ERKReg registry. As you will see in a minute, we have a very good participation rate in this project, and we would like to use this occasion to update you on some of the latest developments, innovations, changes, and also to introduce some of the sub-registries to you. So this is basically an event that takes place at 2 dates, and this is the part 1 of 2. The other one will be held, as you know, in May after the annual meeting. So today we would like to focus more on the input issues related to the registry, and at the other meeting we will present more some of the output of the registry to you. So this is the way we envision this, and we have 3 sub-registries being presented today, and another 3 or 4 even presented next time. Okay, so with this I would like to hand over to Alicia.
Yeah, so I quickly give you an overview about the development of ERKReg. So as you see, we have a steadily increased patient number, and this is all because of your great effort. So we have now more than 23,000 patients enrolled, from which 2/3 are children and 1/3 are adult patients. And this means like every week you are entering 84 new patients, which is really great. And thank you very much for this great effort. And just also to show you about the centers who are involved in ERKReg. So we have from each year we get more and more centers who are active in ERKReg. And even this year, 4 new centers joined ERKReg. And the orange ones are our ERKNet members, so the HCPs from ERKNet. And so far we have 57 active ERKNet members out of 72, and they entered 94.6% of all ERKReg entries. We have also affiliated partners from ERKNet who are participating in ERKReg, and external centers from outside Europe, but also from outside the ERKNet community. So just to see who is entering patients in ERKReg. As Franz already mentioned, these more advanced training sessions will also focus on sub-registries. As you probably have seen, we get more and more sub-registries. And so therefore we thought it's a great opportunity to also highlight those and also point out like elements from these sub-registries. And these are the current sub-registries which are already developed and which you can use. So we have Eurosys, which will also be presented today with 380 patients out of 474. There's distal RTA sub-registry. You see 257 patients are already included. We have pediatric SLE with 116, Bardet-Gittleman with 131, and these 3 will all be presented next time. And Escape KD and ComCure are quite new, and so we have 70 and 100 patients in these 2 sub-registries, and you will hear more about these registries later. And we are also planning to be getting new sub-registries. So we are almost ready to launch the IgA nephropathy and IgA vasculitis sub-registry. And as you can see, currently in ERKReg, we have 1,500 patients with those diseases. So this is also something where we will contact you to update these patients also in the sub-registries. And there will be also an ANCA vasculitis, ADTKD, ARPKD sub-registry developed this year. So I hand over to Tanja.
So good afternoon, everybody. I just want to quickly present you the results of the ERKReg user survey that we have recently circulated. And we are very happy to see that we have 81 respondents. So thank you all for your time to complete the survey. And we can say that the questionnaire, the answers are quite representative, as we have received answers from 45 out of 62 active ERKReg centers. And with this survey, you will help us to understand your practical or technical issues around the data entry. And we are always happy about your input, and we hope we can address your questions and all your suggestions during this meeting. To quickly summarize, we can see that overall you are very satisfied with the structure of ERKReg and also from the support from the central office. Most of you say that the data items are clear or super clear. Of note, we also received some comments regarding too many mandatory data items that frustrate you because you cannot save an entry. We already try to make as much data items optional as possible. However, for the core items relevant to calculate the kidney function or for calculating the KPIs, we must leave them mandatory, but we will also address this later in the talk by Jose. We can also see that almost 100% say that the query items are clearly formulated. We will get back to this later also. And as you may know, we have also now started to develop or to deliver a basic training monthly, and 73% think it's very helpful, but also some of you preferred more advanced trainings, and that's why we are sitting here and came together. Next slide, please. Yeah, as you already have heard, our advanced trainings intend to give more insight into our sub-registries. We wanted to know more about what you know about the sub-registries, and here are the results. We can see that most of you are aware of the sub-registries and that you also think that the data items are clearly formulated, but also that some of you need more insights in the sub-registry, need more background, how data is used. And that's why the first 3 sub-registries will be presented in detail later by the lead investigators of the sub-registries. Next slide, please. Yeah, to highlight another burning issue is the informed consent. As you may know, we have currently 2 versions in place. The first version, which was provided back in 2018 when the ERN started, and another version which has been developed by EJPRD and the ERNs in collaboration. And we have provided you this version in 2022, and we are happy to see that most of you used the version 2, which have 2 additional consent options that the patients or the patient representatives can give, which is first, the data use for to share with commercial partners, and also to share the data with non-EU researchers. So these 2 data items are also incorporated in the basic data entry. These are the last 2 questions you have to fill out. And if you don't know whether you use version 1 or 2, you can click on the sentence where it's written note, and please use the updated consent form. You can see we have put there screenshots from both versions, and then you can select those. We encourage you to use the version 2 because this has been developed specifically for the use of data, patient data in registries. And if you need the templates, we have all put them on the website for the adult version and the parents version in all European languages. We have also received some comments in the survey if there may be a toddler or a youth version, and yes, we have done this for our Heidelberg Center. We need to do it. You can see it here. So if you are interested, you also to have informed consents for children and also for younger children, we are happy to translate it and also to provide you for your local use. And the last thing we want to introduce is that we are currently working on a patient video and introducing the overall concept of ERKReg and also to give more insight in the purpose, how the data will be used. And our partners from Eurogen have already developed such a video, and now we also try to make it. It will be available in the most spoken European languages, plus Turkish and Arab. And yeah, this will be helpful for the parents to introduce the registry to them. Thank you.
If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to write them in the chat, and then we will have a Q&A session in the end of the webinar.
Jose?
Yes. So we have summarized in a few slides some of the main changes that affect the core registry, ERKReg. There are other changes, but those are mainly for the additional sub-registries, and they are reflected in the standard operating procedure or the protocols for the sub-registries. And one of the main changes is a new section for kidney imaging. And this module is intended for the longitudinal recording of kidney development. It will be automatically displayed when a patient meets the necessary requirements. So you don't have to think, should I enter imaging data for this patient or not? It will be offered to you. And the conditions for that is that the patient has to suffer from either a hypo or a dysplasia in the kidney, either unilateral or bilateral, and that the patient has to be younger than 2 years old at the time of first visit, because later in during the following annual visits or the annual checkups, and at times of between 2 and 3 years old and 3 and 4 and 5. Sorry, no, between 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. There will be a similar module showing up on the visits for the relevant data. In line with what Tanja mentioned, we know that often you will not have all this information available, so the only mandatory element in this case is the date of examination, but of course we encourage you to be to provide as complete of a data set as you can. Next slide, please. Something else which we have changed recently or within the last months is the family history module. This was initially presented in the genetic diagnosis section, but we reworked it, and it's now displayed within the primary diagnosis modules. And this, again, is automatically shown only when relevant. And this affects patients that are either participating in the DRTA, Barter, or CompuServe registries, or that suffer from EDAPKD or ADPKD1 with tuberous sclerosis. And the reorganizing of the module does not mean that you have to re-enter any data. The data that was already in ERKReg was carried over, so no user action is necessary. Next slide, please. To summarize some of the fixes and improvement that we are constantly implementing in ERKReg, we added new unit conversion functions for units that are commonly used in hospitals and centers. 2 examples are shown here in the slides, and magnesium and aldosterone. Of course, we are always happy to hear feedback from users. If your center or if your reports show a formula that is commonly used and it's not included in the registry, please let us know. We encourage that instead of using a conversion formula on your own and entering the data in the registry, because some people might use a slightly different formula, and then the data is not consistent overall. And of course, we always try to reduce the reduce the burden of data that is placed onto you by making variables optional whenever possible. At the same time, we want to have a data set that is useful for further use in research. So we need to keep a fair amount of data elements mandatory. We have changed due to user feedback some of these, serum creatinine for certain diseases, for example, or created logic rules that make only certain elements mandatory if some conditions are met. We have also been editing the validation ranges, which are intended to provide an extra layer of data quality, but at times, of course, they do not properly account for outliers. Some patients have values that are not contained within those validation windows, and we are aware that some users do enter then the smallest or the largest allowed value. We would like to not encourage that practice, and it is of course more time consuming, but please let us know if the windows are not accurate and you would like to have them changed if the value is indeed not a typo or an obvious mistake from the laboratory. Apart from that, we have, you might have noticed sometimes when transferring a patient from the pediatric to the adult unit that the genetic diagnosis was not properly shown in the newer entry. That did not mean that you had to re-enter the data that was an error from our system. It is now corrected, and the information was recovered. So just wanted to let you know that this is fixed now. We have also been expanding the medication section. We have added 2 new medication classes, so sodium glucose transport inhibitors and endothelin blockers. And overall, since within the last 12 months, we have added 14 new medications to ERKReg. Most of them will be offered only to patients of the planned IgA vasculitis and nephritis subregistry, but some of them are available for the core registry, some only for Aarhus patients, or as well for other subregistries like Compliance KD. We have also added a reminder due to some research questions that are currently being done. It's particularly important for us that medication for Aarhus patients is recorded, and we have added a reminder to do so. And I'll hand it over to Alicia.
Yeah, but then I will continue with the queries and the entry update. So we have online plausibility checks implemented in ERKReg. So for example, if you enter the height of a patient and it is not in a predefined range, then you will get a pop-up and a notification that you please correct or check if it's logical or not. In addition to that, we perform once per year an offline query run by our statistician Jonas. This query run includes 44 elements, and we would like to tackle inconsistencies of data entries. And we also have queries regarding new data elements. So for example, if a patient has been already enrolled, but a new medication element has been added, we would like to ask you if you could provide us with more information on this specific medication. All in all, this is a very important task because it improves and ensures a high data quality of ERKReg. So we really encourage you to participate in this action. And we also would like to emphasize that you can reduce the burden or the unnecessary workload regarding the queries if you terminate patients that have been already died or are not showing up anymore in your center, because then you don't receive the queries constantly. On this slide, you can see incomplete and inactive ERKReg patient records. On the left side, the incomplete records. And a record is incomplete if the first visit is missing, but the basic entry is valid. So you can see that records entered by pediatric units have been incomplete, so more or less 3 to 4%, and incomplete records by adult units, more or less 14%. On the right side, you see the inactive patient records, and a record a record becomes inactive if there has been no follow-up entry within the last 2 years. The numbers on this side are higher than before. For the pediatric units, almost 20% of the records are inactive, so the patient records, and for the adult, almost 35 records. Then here you can see the change regarding the query next visit before and after the query run. So before the query run was performed, about 6,440 next visits were missing, and we received 2,000 feedbacks on patients, so these cases could be solved. Thank you very much for your contribution and that you let us know the next visits or if something has to be changed. But however, 4,033 patients still need a data check or a next visit or termination, so you can see that 2/3 of feedbacks are still missing. So we really encourage you to keep going with this action and provide us with feedback. Here you can see an overview of all queries that have been performed. On the left side, the already existing queries. On the right side, the new data elements, which are added to ERKReg since it is constantly evolving. And you can see that we made progress, but there is still space to improve in the future. So we would highly encourage you to participate to ensure a high data quality. Then I would, and for sure, the next query run is still already waiting. On behalf of Jonas, he will send out or carry out the next query run in May, and we expect the feedback until the end of May. Then I would hand over to Franz.